Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about the 718 Spyder and the GT4. All journalists and people that drive the car, they basically have two main complaints, and the first one is the gearbox. There's ways to fix that, it's super expensive, and the second one is the exhaust. When it comes down to the exhaust, there's multiple things you can do to fix it. Of course, you can replace the back box, you can replace the overaxle pipes that have the GFP or the gas particulate filters on them, and you can of course also go for sport catalysts or race catalysts. And there's even more things you can do if you want to basically be illegal in the sense of replacing these parts with overaxle pipes that doesn't have the GFPs or decap your car. But the things most people want to achieve by fiddling with their exhaust is basically getting that sound of the car that the old 981 GT4 had, and also some of the older Porsches. There's, as I said, there's multiple things you can do. One of the biggest or easiest things you can do is, of course, to replace the back box, the back that are lost, or the only basically silencer of the car. There's multiple versions you can do by that. I'm going to do one of those mods later on. But as a first modification that we should talk about is basically the valves. So the valves on the car that opens up the exhaust also are controlled to basically be shut down. So even if you are in the mode where the exhaust is basically open, the Porsche Sport exhaust, the PSE, if you have that button pressed in the center console, the valves will be open. But they will be open when you are standstill and when you're moving up until about 2000 RPMs in first gear. Then they will close, and they will stay closed up until almost 5000 RPMs once, and then they're open. And this goes for all basically the gears up until you're in quite a lot higher speed, and then they can be open all the time. And this has to do with regulations for the different countries and the different regions when it comes to sound level of cars to be able to be approved in those countries. So Porsche solved it in this way that you get a high note on the top, and you get some really nice engine sound when you're standstill, but in between, you're basically not going to hear your car, and especially in the Spyder with an open top, you want to hear that exhaust. So one of the absolutely cheapest things you can do is just remove the diffuser and unplug the two vacuum hoses that goes to the valves on each side, and you will have a free-flowing exhaust. But it will always stay open, so you cannot close it back. And these valves are controlled by vacuum, and the vacuum are controlled by two solenoids, or basically maybe only one solenoid in this car. And that's done in basically any other car as well that's modern, that has exhaust valves. So there's things you can do, of course, to solve this, and you can unplug it, as I said, but you can also get one of these. So this is a control unit from Cargraphic, a German company run by a guy called Thomas. Or basically, I guess he pronounced it in some German way. And how it actually works is, this little box, you place it by, you basically glue it on to your car. On the inside, it's hidden with a small remote. You then connect these two wires in between the OEM connector of the car that goes into the solenoid that controls the valve. So these two connectors are OEM, they're from Porsche. Of course, this thing is not sold by Porsche, but the connectors are from Porsche, which means that you basically disconnect the solenoid, this goes in between, and then this allows you to control if the valves receive that signal from the engine. So you control it easily with a remote that looks like this. I don't know if you can see it's kind of small, quite sturdy in the feel. It's aluminum and quite nice plastic. And you get two in the kit from Cargraphic. They have the Cargraphic logo, but however, these ones are actually standardized remotes for, let's say, a garage door or something else that runs on 433 megahertz. So you can get more of these, and you can program them. You can get other ones and program them as well. So it's quite easy. There are repeaters in that sense. So you need to have one to be able to program a new one, but then you can make as many as you want to. So that's always nice to have. If you lose one, make a new one before you start using the second one. So quite easy to understand. There's like an on and off, easy. But this one basically goes into the car, connects in between, and it's fully reversible. So yeah, basically supposedly it's a 20-minute job. I installed a similar one from Capristo on my Ferrari F430. You can find the video in the links below. But this one, of course, needs some operation to get into the engine. But without further ado, let's head out to the garage and see how hard it actually is. Like right now, we're at 3,000 RPMs, third gear, have the exhaust, and also doing the downshift. Really comes alive. So we're here in the car, and basically what we've done is raise the booth and put these ones up so it's easy to work with. And underneath here is actually where you got the engine. And to get to the engine, you basically have a couple of screws here that are plastic, like that, tiny ones. Let's see if we can get some focus. Very easy to just unscrew. And then you have two plastic clips that sits under here, and you'll easily find them. So basically remove all of those, and then we're going to remove this thing over here, so that we can get into the tensioner that goes for the roof, and then we can get into the cushion, and underneath that we'll actually also get into the engine. So also remember to remove the weather seal that goes on top here, but keep it safe, of course. Do not damage it. And then we can remove the carpet that sits here. Okay. It goes. So once you remove the carpet, we need to remove the tensioner that sits here. That's the tensioner for the roof. It's got 5 bolts, I think. And it's a Torx 30, so we need to remove that to be able to remove the foam and to be able to remove the cover to the engine. So let's remove the tensioner. Now once all the bolts are removed, we can remove this tensioner over here. It's a metallic piece that just sits like that, keeps the foam down. So you can now remove this piece of foam. It sits over the cover, or covers the engine. It sits in here. We're now exposed the sort of the lid for the engine. So underneath here is where that 4.0 liter engine sits, and it sits with a lot of Torx as well. So let's go ahead and remove those as well, so that we get into the Porsche maintenance mode. Okay, so once you removed all these tiny little bolts, they are a couple of these ones. They basically sit all around this metallic cover, which is the engine cover, and also we have a couple of them sitting underneath here. So I have 4 underneath here, and the rest of them are easy to access. So make sure that you have a tiny Torx 30 that you can use, like a low one, because underneath here it's not very easy to access. So once we now actually reach the engine cover, we can start removing it It's very easy once we actually got it loose. And we can now see the heart of the 718. So what we're actually going to do is, like, the connector is way down here. It's very hard to see even if we actually take the light. It's down there. It's a little white thing. Gonna have a hard time reaching it. But so what we're gonna do is, like, we're gonna disconnect these vacuum lines that goes here, and then we can actually reach down there and get that connector unhooked. Okay, so I now connected the first of the two lines. I actually needed to remove some of these vacuum lines here to get some flexibility in this one. Then it could actually get my hand squeezed down there. So what I found out is that you can actually see in these ones, the ones you get in, you can try to study them to see how they work. But actually managing to get a screwdriver down there, actually taped it all together to not lose anything, but I managed to get that down there and press that little button that you need to release that first one. You can actually see it down there, the one with the white on it, the white little tab on top. It is this tiny little thing down here. It's, make sure you don't have big hands, so ask a friend with small hands or something, because it's not big. It's down, it's this one over here. And you can see it's this little white thing. If you bend it out with a screwdriver, it opens and you can easily connect things. So that's the one we're gonna connect with this one over here. And then we're gonna connect the ground to one of these bolts over here. It's actually really nicely connected. This one is kind of chunky, so make sure that you really get that to click in, and this white thing, it really locks it down. So press that one back in. Now it's super sturdy. One other thing you need to decide is where you're gonna put the big sort of box. This one, the controller with the controller unit. So I actually decided I'm gonna put it here in the trunk. So I removed some of the fasteners. So if we actually look in here, we're gonna see that there's actually like a shelf here that usually holds some kind of electronic, I guess, in the regular 718s, or if you have some other equipment that I don't know. So I'm actually just gonna mount it over here on the chassis, and then this piece of styrofoam that I removed goes back in there, so that covers it and makes it sit snug and tight. So it's gonna but make sure that before you actually start doing the wiring, there is a hole here, or there's multiple ones, but there's one hole here that fits very well if you use this to cover it over and can run through here. Okay, so I now completed all the wiring. As you can see, I actually mounted the ground. That's the only thing you actually need to connect to get some electricity to it, to one of the bolts that holds the vacuum lines. Reconnected all the vacuum lines and made sure everything sits as it should. And also a zip tied these two cables together so they don't lie lean towards the intake, and then I zip tied all three of them to one of the vacuum line, not too hard, so it's still everything can still move if it wants to, but so it doesn't run around and to then there's no excessive or extra wear and tear that doesn't need to be there. I then tape the line itself over here and then into one of these holes and underneath here. So basically underneath here, and then the controller sits on that bracket in here. So it looks completely stock. It's still in here, so it's protected from the heat. Then the cable goes here. It's not the most beautiful thing. Should have had silver duct tape, but only had black one. There is no holes for you to run any cables through here in an easy way. There is one down here. It doesn't go in until very far down, so there's no very nice way to actually get the cables in here unless you run it like this. The other way you have to, or the selection you actually have, is if you would like to mount this the controller inside here. You could potentially do it over there, or maybe in here, but I'm not sure. It does run really hot in here if you run the engine as you maybe should in the GT4, so, or in the Spyder. But so actually I opted for this one. It's the same as I've seen some other people with the Spyder do.
and I gonna run the same. Hopefully that'll work. Otherwise we'll need to find another way, maybe some smaller cables, or disconnect that from that and run it through some smaller holes or something like that. But this is the version I'm gonna go for now, and I think it's gonna work really well. So now it's time to put the engine cover back, put the tensioner back, put the foam back, and everything, and basically reverse order everything, and then gonna try to start it up. So 1, 2, 3. So everything is back together as it were when I started. And remember to screw all these ones and put the clip back on, and also the weather seal over here. So it's now time to start it off or up and see how the controller works. So basically we've got 2, we're going stop. Now it's completely stop. Then we got the first one. Immediately it goes to full sport. Okay, so that's basically the install. The car is back to as it were when we started, and everything is as it should. These remotes are quite nice. So as you saw, when pressing the second button, or the button named 2 here, we actually get the full valves, or the standard exhaust. Pressing the 1, we get the full sport exhaust, always open valves, and that's the way we want it, right? But one thing that's really nice with these ones as well is actually that they will keep or they will memorize where you left them. So if you leave it in with the sport exhaust open, it's going to be open when you get back and when you restart the car. If you left it in stock, it's going to stay in stock. So basically still having the full stock possibility, while also having the possibility to control your exhaust fully. So that's going to be the end of the video. It took a lot of more time than I thought. Hopefully this will help you a bit, and I can really recommend this. It's not hard to install, it just takes time. And make sure you have like a small shafted sort of Torx, because you won't be able to do this with just a screwdriver Torx. You will need to have one of those tinier ones, as I showed before. Otherwise it's gonna be a hassle to get the cover of the car off. So really recommend it. Take some coffee, take your time. It's gonna take you like 1.5 to 2 hours, depending on how used you are to actually work on cars. And this is going to be my first mod. I'm going to do some shooting as well. It's going to follow up after this one regarding how the sound actually differs once you're on the road, because I guess that's what you really want to hear. And then later on, we're going to choose what kind of back box we're going to install on the car. We're going to go for the full race version, or we're going to go for more of the touring version. I am going to go with a Cargraphic setup. So let's see which one we'll go for. But until we see you next time, take care and bye.